can never remember. It's just, each one, the moment I have it, I ache to buy it. I want it desperately. The moment I own it, even if it's for a few seconds, that's enough. I could sell it the next minute. And I don't even remember it sometimes. I remember it, but I don't. It's not up in my mind. I'm looking forward to the next book at that point.
I've always sort of liked books, and I've bought them since my first book I bought, Rare Book, was when I was 12, and I spent £5 on it. It was a signed Tennyson, and I started trading books at university, buying books for myself, and then seeing there was a market in it, and driving up to Oxford and selling them to Blackwell's Rare Books. I had a BMW in my own flat at university, which was great. And I think I sold £90,000 worth in my last year at university. And it's always what I wanted to do.
I sort of fell into it not knowing what else I was going to do, really, which isn't the thing to say.
Always loved books, and I like to own the books I liked. And I remember when I was bar mitzvahed at 13, I asked everyone to get me gift certificates to bookstores. I got a job in my first bookstore when I was 15. When I moved to New York at the age of 19, I started working in a new bookstore, and then decided that I was kind of bored with working in new bookstores. I was interested in antique books. I'd started looking for books from my childhood. I actually started with the antique.
I started off as a collector in the early 80s. Then I started buying and selling to fuel the collecting, and one thing led to another. I met my wife up in Ojai when I opened a bookstore in Ojai, California. We got married, and I continued as a bookseller.
Well, I've always loved books, and when I was in college, I took a rare book course at Cornell University with Don Eddy, who was the head of the rare book library, and from the very first day, he came in and he had laying on the table a King James Bible and a Shakespeare folio, and from that moment on, I was completely taken and loved it and studied rare books with him, and when I came time to graduate, I went to him and I said, I want to work with rare books, and explained to me about the rare book world and about the differences between auction houses and libraries and working for a rare bookseller, and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to work for a rare bookseller. So
it's my life. Not a job, it's fun.
I think it's a real passion. I think that people who are doing this for the most part at some point in their lives could have done something more lucrative and so forth, but not as interesting, and that didn't fuel that passion for them the way this does. I think a lot of people are willing to work harder than they would otherwise in order to be able to do this and get rewards out of it that are not just monetary.
I think the favourite thing we've brought is this head of James Joyce, which is a bronze that we commissioned, which is taken directly from Joyce's death mask. If you take the death mask and you cast a bronze from it, you get something which is quite attractive. And poor Joyce, though he's just died, actually looks rather happy and peaceful. I started as a collector. I'm an academic by training, taught at university for 20 years, so I deal in the books that I actually know about, which is, in a curious way, both an advantage and a disadvantage. And I'm interested in things that are unique, that are kind of one-offs, that are inscribed or in some way unusual.
So if you have, I sold last year, again, The Adventures and Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes in jackets, the only known copies in jackets. Well, there were thousands and thousands of copies without jackets available, one known with. So how do you value something like that? That's, you could say it's an obsession, but that's the book that's really the closest to the original condition that you can find.
And we sell to a lot of collectors, say, in gay literature that are looking at kind of the underground history of gays, or people that are from both sides, the right and the left, that are interested in the history of the Communist Party. We're one of the leading specialists in the history of the American Communist Party. If you don't know anything about them or the various splits like the Lovestonites or the Trotskyists or others, we're the come-to people.
What attracts people, I think what attracted me at first, and what attracts most people at first, is what's around them. And in this case, it's mostly modern books and mostly literature, because that's what I read more than other things.
No, I'm not a collector, only a trader. I like them, but it's my collection. No importance. I'm not obliged to keep them. I buy them, I take a pleasure of them, I enjoy them, and then I sell them.
I don't know, we just have a real broad interest. We're more into things that are almost more one-off things than books, because books are pretty much, everything is pretty well known. It's kind of the interest in the unknown, finding the unknown items that are really pretty exciting. So
people that are collectors are passionate about what they collect. They're passionate, and what a joy to deal with people that are passionate about this stuff. You never have to sell it. They know what they want, and I learn something new every day.
Did you start as a collector?
No, absolutely not. Didn't know. I'm an avid reader, always have been, but didn't know anything about rare books. Didn't know anything about science and medicine, which is our specialty. So it was a steep learning curve. Not only did I have to learn about rare books, which is unto itself an entire course of study, but also the subjects that we deal in. So it took a while too, and it was a lot of work, but as I say, it's just a joy. I also love books that deal with controversy. That's why I like Darwin, for instance, because, for example, when Darwin published The Origin of the Species in 1859, the controversy that arose after that not only created a number of responses, both in support and against evolution, but the same debates that arose at that time are going on today and are still being written about. So somebody might be interested in collecting all the books dealing with the debate between creationists and evolutionists. And even now they're talking about, you're either on one side or the other, or is there perhaps a middle? Anyway, as a subject matter, for instance, it's a wonderful thing to collect.
It becomes a passion, I think. Yeah, it's like, I hate to admit it, but for a lot of the time I was a collector, I was not rational about what I spend for books.
We stock Jane Austen first editions, we stock first editions of Alice in Wonderland, some first editions of James Joyce, and more modern authors, Graham Greene, Hemingway, and so on, up to Harry Potter and very, very new books become collectible very fast. And we just sold the very first Harry Potter book for $30,000. And that's only 4 or 5 years after it was published.
How much did you pay for it?
I'm not telling you that.
Fair question.
Worth a try.
99% of your friends won't know that that's of value. You can't put it on the wall like a Picasso and kind of impress your friends. A very small percentage will look at that and go, oh my God, there's a first edition of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So it has to be fueled by something else that's more personal.
I mean, this is Appianus Astronomical Caesarum, which is printed on his private press in 1544. I mean, it's intrinsically the most beautiful science book ever published. I mean, incredible feat. A very valuable book. This is from the Furstenberg Library, Donau Eschingen.
How much is that, for example?
Well, put it this way, I paid near $500,000 for it. And so the prices depends when you ask me how desperate I am.